Okay, welcome to everyone. Welcome to the Q3 QGIS course. We have let you done some work, and it's beautiful to see in the Miro board what you have prepared. I think this is very rich for us to reflect and respond to your questions and things you have produced. For today, the workshop session, the seminar, you could say, and in this seminar, we want to go through questions you have for us, and we will do that in blocks of 45 minutes, around 45 minutes and 15 minutes breaks. So at least you have some time to stand up and take a break and have a drink. Erik, you have prepared a setup for today?
Yep, I did. So I was looking at the plan for today is that, well, welcome back. We're doing the introduction, etc. And I wanted to get back to the Miro board because there were some questions already put on the Miro board. And I think that will take up the first block or 1.5 block of time. And then we can delve into other questions that you have, other issues, issues with one of the subjects, but also other subjects that you're struggling with. So use the chat for that, and we'll make we'll try to collect the questions in the chat, and we'll discuss them and try to answer them as good as we can. I think that's the plan.
Yeah, it's the plan, absolutely.
So use the chat a lot. And if I'm saying something that is not entirely clear to you, don't hesitate to interrupt me. Not more than 20 times per 45 minutes block, but please interrupt me whenever I say something that's like, okay, what did you do here? Just ask the question, and yeah. Okay. So, well, as Stefan said, there were some really nice examples on the Miro board. A couple of things that drew my attention was, for example, the color schemes for team 1 and 3. If you look at those, let's see here, you can see that they are all in one main color, in this case, green. It was green for both, by the way. And that gives a kind of a unity to your report, even though this is not a report. It's just it's just 3 or 4 maps with some explanation to it. But it adds to the experience. I see everybody flying around on the Miro board now. It adds to the experience for the reader. So that's one thing. The second thing is black backgrounds. And I always enjoy black backgrounds, and I never see them anywhere apart from in spatial studies, in architecture, urbanism, etc. So there were a few groups that did black backgrounds. Now, I could add a little to that, perhaps, for not all of you found that. But if you have your QGIS, like I have here, you can see that it always starts with a white background, but it's very easy. You can use your project settings. Where's that? Project properties, sorry, your project properties. And here you can change your background color to any color that you prefer. So if you want true black, go for true black. If you want a dark gray, go for a dark gray. That could add something to your map as well. Just have a different background than a completely white one. I'm used to white, so I'll put it back on white. As you can see in my setup on QGIS, the first time I press this pull down button, always it comes up with a half circle instead of the complete circle. I'm not sure if that is my computer or if that's happening with everyone. Second time, the complete, it's really weird. Anyway, so you can pick standard colors, but I normally use the color triangle. And especially if I want some gray, there's on this side of the triangle, you see it goes from white to black. Okay, I'll switch back to white again. By the way, you can set the whole user interface for QGIS to dark as well, if you like that, because it has a kind of a 1995 view, perhaps. So if you want to change that, you can always set your system to dark. And that is here, the UI. You can do night mapping. It requires a restart, but then it comes up with a kind of thing that you're used to probably on Photoshop, or any Mac user is used to black things, I think, instead of the light gray that Windows prefers. Okay, so that was another thing, background in black. Team 10, you had 5 heat maps in one. That means that Stefan will probably curse you now because he is not a big fan of heat maps. But it kind of worked very, very neat here. This wasn't interesting. This is the first time I ever encountered a group that combined different heat maps. And I'm kind of curious how you did that. Is it really 5 heat maps separate from each other and overlaid on top of each other?
Yeah, it is separate heat maps overlaid on top of each other.
Excellent. Well done. Never seen that before. Really, really nice. Yeah. Oh, and then there's one thing I had to mention. That is the story of the tiled surfaces, the background maps. As you can see, let me give an example. Here, for example, you can see the background map is extremely detailed. Here you would probably be interested in just have the city name of Zoetermeer, The Hague, Rotterdam, etc., Gouda, in large font there, kind of similar to this one. But it comes up with all this detail. And why does it have so much detail? This is why the extremely small labels here, for example, the road label, which is hardly legible anymore. So what is happening here? And that is it is the blessing and the curse of the tiled map surfaces, WMTS. As you can see, the surfaces for most of the background layers are WMTS, web mapping tiled surfaces, or tiling surfaces. Oh, it's web map tile surface. Great. Well done, Erik. So as you can see, you have that here. And if I, for example, would, no, you did the, this one is the one that's been used here. And the best thing for this map is that, you know, it always gives you a proper background map on screen. But as soon as you go to print, it starts getting so much detail that it's not really working. So there's to one of those to those surfaces, there's a few backdrops. One of them is, as you can see now, perhaps, I'm not sure how my screen will hold on your screen, but the fonts are really crappy now. It's kind of a, yeah, it's just not, it's not crisp. And that is because those tiled surfaces, they are on different levels. They're not, they're not really skill dependent. They have fixed levels. And these fixed levels, you can see if you zoom to native resolution, it will go to the level that is actually the resolution of the actual tile. And then the fonts become more crisp. And here, every step you zoom in, it will come up with the actual tile, because it will, oh fuck, my English is so bad this afternoon. The map scale, it is on, it is halved every time. Is that correct? Halved or doubled? The other way around?
Call it doubled.
I'm messing up my languages anyway. Okay, so, but as you have these specific tiles on specific scales, that also means that if you start exporting this map, you're changing from your screen resolution, 72 or 96 dpi dots per inch, to print resolution, which is probably 300 dpi. So let's, for example, use the 96, which is nearly 100. That means that in both directions, you get 3 times as much data going from 96 to 300. So you have 9 times as much data to consider. And that means that if I, for example, make a small map here now, an empty layout, just default settings. This is my layout, here's my map. As soon as I export this one, it will change the from this resolution to the actual print resolution. As you can see, now it starts moving, and it is supposed to be a good preview, but it is, well, not really. As soon as I export this one, ignore all warnings, just name it layout 1. Yeah, sure. Keep everything on. And as you probably will see, this one is even more detailed than the one I'm looking at here. So it's brilliant surface, but it's terrible to work with as a good background layer. So, okay, how to resolve this? Well, one of the things you could do is tune down your print resolution, but that will give you, well, not the nice crisp maps that you want. What you could try is work with a different background, especially labeling. That is the big, the big problem here, that all the labels, you get very small labels. So you should be looking for a background map that is not labeled, a label-free background map. PDOK has none, I'm sorry to say, or at least I didn't find them. So whenever I have this issue, I'm looking for a different background map. In the Quick Map Services plugin, there is something called Stamen. Stamen is a cartographic firm from North America, and they have, for example, the Stamen terrain background, which could work really nice. It looks a bit flat now, but this might give you a nice, easygoing background. And if I just did that earlier today, if you make something similar map, you probably get something like this. And though it's got more detail, just as the other one did, it got more detail, it doesn't hinder you so much. There's not all the labels to consider here. So that might be a kind of a solution. And of course, there's the solution of building your own background map. But the ease of using these services is, well, that's kind of...
Okay, Erik, the map you're showing now is emphasizing the landscape. So you clearly see the water, the waterways, and the green parts.
Yep.
But I can imagine when looking at the map you were using before, the example you were using before, that the students might like to have a map of the cities good in the background. Not so much the names of the cities, but let's say the built and the built versus not built area. Is there a solution for that?
Well, yeah, you could add you could look for another data set. I'm looking for this one because it's a kind of a soft background map. But you could try, for example, to get the cities in. There's something called, it's not Woonplaats. I thought it was, oh, bevolkingskern. Yeah. Let's see if I can find one which is not a WMS but a WFS. This one, I guess, it's 2008, so it's not that recent. Is there something more recent, perhaps?
2020.
Nope, that's all other things. Okay, so let's add the bevolkingskernen to this. That might help. Yes, did I click it? I think I did. Yeah, it's doing something. You could use this to combine with the background layer. And of course, then, you know, if you want this in a different color, go for a kind of a thing like this and use the layer rendering, of course, again, so that the water is still there. Or maybe do it the other way around. Use the layer renderer on this one. Now,
can I make a question?
Yeah.
Actually, while we were looking at base maps from the PDOK, is there a map that shows only the water elements on a higher resolution than 10K? Because I saw that there's one which is Waterdale, but it's on 10K. So if you zoom out, or if you have a map that is higher than that, then it doesn't show anything, of course.
But do you want to zoom in more or?
No, zoom out more. So if I have, for example, a map that shows the whole region, which is probably not in 10K, but more, if there is a VUFS that is showing the water elements.
Yeah, but you can use the 10K for that, but maybe not as a service. But just download the data there. That might help.
Okay.
So for example, what we could do is at there's some download services as well on the website PDOK.nl, and you could probably download let's see, this one. This has the 10 in it. So you have the top 10. Let's see if I can download part of it or just everything. Oh, just everything. So you have to download everything and then select the water from that.
Okay.
It's I'm not going to demo it up because it's too.
No, it's going to take a long time.
That will take at least 10 minutes. So yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but I think I would go that way, just to download the data and make it my own. Something like that happens here with the top 10 from water. I think you were aiming for one of these, probably the top 10 water. Yeah, I think it could be this one. And this one is probably only showing if you zoom in more. Here it comes. And if you zoom out, more, I'm now at 12,000. I guess that if I zoom out over 25,000, then it's probably gone. No, it's still working at 30. It's no longer working at 50,000. Yeah. That's a surface, a cutoff scale. Yep. The combination is nice though. And as you can see, it probably uses the same data underneath it. This is the, now in the light blue, you see the top 10. And if I zoom out and it doesn't show anymore, you see exactly the same shapes here. So it probably, the stamen is probably harvesting from that topographic map as well.
Maybe good to know that the water parts was also used for the 3D model in the movies in the earlier quarters.
From the top 10.
Yep.
Yeah. Nowadays we also have the basisregistratie grootschalige topografie. the 1000, all the water parts. So that's why I asked if you were looking to zoom in more or zoom out more. Because if you zoom in more, then you can get better water even, or more water. I don't know if it's better. It's more.
Patrick, does this answer your question?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so there were a few questions that you put on Miro. I didn't check if something new came up today, but up to yesterday there were a couple of questions, and I think that most questions I can answer by showing something with data for data and for data manipulation as well. So we're going to have a look at the CSV import. There was one question about that. And perhaps joining as well, because there's a difference in a CSV as well. Do you have a CSV with coordinates or without coordinates? And you can add both to QGIS. There's a lot to consider about selections and filtering of data. And part of manipulation is also about exporting your selections. And that is because the data is never the way you want it. Please be careful. Viewers might be a bit shocked by this next image. But this is the issue here, that in tutorials, everything always works out fine, but in the wild, it doesn't look as pretty as the tutorials. And sometimes you have to work with the data that you have. And the important rule here is that the data is never ever built for your work, for your projects, for your specifications. There is always something else that is involved here. So let's have a look at that. I'd like to show that using, well, the CSV import, of course. Let's start there. I'll kick these out. Yeah, I'll kick these out. Okay, and I'll zoom a bit to Delft or something. Okay. Okay, CSV import. Most of the time, the CSV import uses the delimited text layer. As you can see, I've got this toolbar here on my left, the left of my screen. Out of the box, it is not there. I added that to it. It's just a toolbar. I could have it here as well. But in some instances, for example, for a municipality that I work with quite a lot, they have them on the left, and it's it's kind of neat. It's a bit old-fashioned. It is the same way that QGIS 2 used to have this. But if you don't have that there, just add a layer using the, in this case, the delimited text layer, or go through the data source manager, same thing. Okay, so you always end up in this screen. And let's have a look. For example, I've got here the trees from the municipality of Delft. And if I open this data set, as you can see, it gives a kind of an example here of how this data could look like if I import it now. And here you see this is not the way I want it. It looks like one field and one big list. So you see it is comma separated. There's commas between the different fields. So let's change semicolon to a comma, and that might help. The decimal separator here, well, there's not too many decimals, I guess. Most of this is text anyway. There's one here that's a dot. So let's not use this one. But otherwise it looks okay. It's got an X and Y, some other fields. And I see that here they have an X coordinate in the Dutch coordinate system and a Y coordinate. So my first impression is I've got to use these because it's Dutch coordinate system. So let's use this and not this one, which is probably Google Maps. I'm not sure about that, but let's go for the Dutch ones first to see how it works. So we've got point coordinates. The X field is X step 1, the Y is Y coordinate RD, and this is of course the Dutch coordinate system. Now that should do it, I guess. Let's check it for a bit, but looks good. Spatial index, yep, sounds good. Okay, go. So now all the trees that the municipality of Delft is taken care of are shown here. And as you can see, it is in Delft. So far, so good. And then I zoom in and I think that's some weird pattern. There's something very strange happening here. Why are all these trees going all through Delft? Sometimes this just happens. Not sure why this happens, but let's have a look. I'll just identify one of those points, and I see this one has a coordinate which is, hey, that's interesting. It's got 100 meters exactly. It ends on 400. So this one should have the same. Yep, it does. Okay, so there's something wrong with the Y coordinates. The X coordinates are maybe fine, but the Y coordinates are interestingly enough, every 100 meters, they're rounded by 100 meters. So this is useless this way. And that is what I meant with that image of the data sets in wild. I just downloaded this data set this morning from the municipality, and it's just a big mess. So this can happen. In that case, I know it has a different coordinate system as well. Maybe that one is better. So let's give that a try. We go back, we do exactly the same. The only thing is we use the X and Y from the X and Y field. And this is, as I think, because this has 7 digits here, and this one has 6 before the decimal separator. So my guess is this could be the Google Mercator prediction, or the pseudo Mercator. So let's give that a go. Maybe that one works better. Well, this looks more like it. You can see the trees here along the canals and everything. Okay, so this is much better. Yep. So I don't know why this happens. I really don't know. I just know that if you are loading data, sometimes you have to try different things because it's just probably some crappy export from whatever tool the municipality here uses. And I don't think they checked all their output. Okay, so this is one way of using CSV data, but that means that you have coordinates. And there's other data sets as well that don't have coordinates. And one that might be of interest to you is the prognosis for the development of population in the Netherlands. And it's got a huge layer name, so I'll just cut this off a bit so that it becomes legible. Prognosis from 2020 to 2050. That's better. Look, no example here. That means that probably there's no comma to be found. So let's, look, better. Here you see municipalities, names of municipalities. You see some data entries, and it looks like magic. It looks good. Here you see the comma as a decimal separator. So tag this box. That should do it. I don't see any coordinates here, but I do have something here, the municipality name. So I guess I'm all right there. Okay, so it has no point coordinates, so no geometry here, just table. So this is a second way of loading data. Now it has no map entry yet, but it is a table in the layers panel. So what do we have? Looks good. We've got all kinds of data. There's one source name here. Okay, never mind that. But otherwise you see small and larger. Okay, and I should tell you that, look, Amsterdam will grow to 1,054 people. Well, that is multiplied by 1,000, of course. Okay, so what can we do with something like that? We can join it to something else, of course. So let's join this to municipalities layer. I've got one here probably. I'm looking for my data here. I'll show you. I've got my CBS data, and I'm going for the municipality from 2018. That is because I know that this data was made in 2018. So we should base it on the same municipalities as we had in 2018. So don't use the latest ones or the 2020 ones. Use the geometry that corresponds with the data in the table.
You can know that because of the number of municipalities. In 2021, it's 352, and last year it was 355.
Let's see what I have. Ooh, this is not going well. But, yes, of course. Why do I have 460?
Water.
Water. Okay, so I have to filter out the water. I know this data set, and probably you do now too by now. I know there's a field called water. It's got B, yes, and no in it. Well, water should be nope. Okay, that looks better. Now it's got 380 objects. The prognosis got 381, but as we've seen, there's one extra line with the source that the data came from CBS. So that, yeah, that fits. So I can join this data now. So I'll go to municipalities, properties, I'll join the data. I'm joining the prognosis. The join field is the municipality name, which is in the other table is GM name. I'll cache that. I'll join all these fields, and I'll just cut this down a bit. Right. Okay. So now I can use this data to have a look at what do we expect for the population to be. We've got the in the bachelor phase where everything is going around this 1 million homes in 2030. That's a central theme for all the bachelor programs now, I think, as far as I've seen. So I'm not sure how it is in urbanism if you're doing the same thing, the same thesis, but we can make a graduated thing here. I'll go for the value later. I'll first check my factual thing. Okay, and now I could use the 2030. This is, by the way, the value is the end of this period. So it's 2030. So I could use this one, but I want to do it in comparison to the data we have now. So I have to divide this by something. I can divide this by the number of people that are living in this in the municipality now. However, those are actual numbers, and the first one is in thousands. So I have to multiply this by 1,000 again, and then I can give a grow or shrink number. So let's have a look what happens. Look, we've made a map. So here you see the relative values now. Let's say that yellow is neutral. Let's change these values from, let's say, 0.98 to 1.02, for example. So 2% in both ways. Oops. Did I do something wrong? Why is this one now so? Oh, 98. Sorry. I thought I put a comma in there. Okay, so now this is anything between plus or minus 2%. So yellow is more or less neutral, and the green ones are going to grow, let's say up to 10%, and the blue ones will grow more than 10%. And for shrinking, same thing. So here we have a relative map. So this is how the population will change in the coming 10 years. So you see most of the growth is in the higher growth is in the Randstad area. There's some here in Arnhem, Nijmegen, Ede-Wageningen, probably Ede-Wageningen, I guess, and Apeldoorn, maybe? No, this is Apeldoorn, I guess. Eindhoven, large city, of course. Zwolle. So the larger cities are the exceptions in the east of the Netherlands as well. So, yeah. So with a simple CSV data set, a table with no geometry at all, but just a municipality and a lot of numbers, this is the outcome. By the way, if you want to know how this will go to 2050, apply. Yeah. And I guess that because everything is white here means that, oh, probably that is because it becomes out of bounds. Yep. So especially the north and northeast of the Netherlands will continue to, well, shrink in population. Same with Limburg and with Zeeuws-Vlaanderen. And here in the Randstad area and the area surrounding that, population will continue to grow. For my, what's that, Stefan? I see you're trying to say something.
Well, it would be interesting to compare this with the rising sea levels and the risk of flooding.
Yes, same thing in blue.
Maybe that's why I choose the blue, because the blue part, well, especially the Randstad part, they're quite risky factors, risky areas. So it would be good to have the blue areas more to the west or the east part of the Netherlands. Okay.
Yeah. Look, this is where Delft is, right? So this is where the Faculty of Architecture is. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, we're suitable located. But would there be some correlation between having a Faculty of Architecture here and the fact that people do want to live here? Because if that would be the case, then I would suggest we open up a second department of architecture somewhere in Groningen. That might help there. Right, let's get back to business. What was that? That was the first thing. Let's see, I've got a plan for this. What time is it, by the way?
It's almost 2:30, so a couple of minutes you have. So maybe there's some questions about this we can use to finish this part, and then we continue.
And we'll continue after the break with the second part. Yeah, I think that will be good. Then we go to Lisa data and selecting and filtering that. Yeah.
So any questions at the moment? Are things which are very difficult to follow, or you would like to, Erik, emphasize, elaborate on?
For me, it was really clear. I do need to rehearse what all the steps were, because it went too fast. But yeah, it's really nice to see how you can couple data towards a set if it has not have any geometry at all. So, but if I understand correctly, now the attribute table of the growth of the cities or the growth of our inhabitants is now added to the attribute table of the municipalities.
Yes, that's correct. As you can see, this is the old table, and if I scroll down to the right here, you can see the extra added fields.
Okay. Yeah.
And I've used this short prog as a short extra in the join. Let me show you what I mean. This one, edit that one. As a custom field name prefix. If you don't make this a short one, then you get the whole name of the whole data set. So prognosis 2020, 2050, that will fill up all the space in your fields.
The column names will get the old table name together with the column name, and that's why you make it. You have an abbreviation for that now.
Yeah. Otherwise, this column would be named prognosis 2020, 2050, and then 2020, 2025. And that would be a huge name. So yeah. But yes, indeed, all the columns are added to this data set now.
Okay.
And it worked.
I know what to do for.
Yeah. It's clear to you, Marika? It's clear to you the steps taken, or are there some steps in between? Erik has to show again, or?
Yeah, it went too fast with the joining. I couldn't catch up with the writing it down.
I'll show you once more. It is basically, I've got this join now, but normally if you add a join, new join, I'll not make a new one, I'll edit the old one, because you will come to the same field here. And here you have to pick which layer do you want to join to the municipality layer. So in this case, I'll pick the prognosis. In this table, there's a field called gemeente. And that is the primary key that combines these two tables together. So that you should have a joint field in both the tables.
Yeah.
And that is the most important thing. And then you can pick which ones you join. And if you don't pick anything, everything joins. So that's the most important thing here. By the way,
very useful.
I fully agree with you that you need to rehearse more, because as they say, there is no shortcut to experience. I'm sorry to say, nice. There's no sleep with the book under your pillow thing or something like that. It's just, yeah, practice.
Yeah, I tried to program it in Python to make it a combined table, but it didn't work because one thing was that I hadn't had all the data, so that was a lack of experience. But also, some sort of the ordering. I had some zip codes of certain cities, and I have to order them by the numbers of the cities and keep the ADC or what's next to the zip code apart from it. So it was a lot of extra work. So I think this is more helpful.
Well, this works, but it only works if the data is properly prepared. And with Python, of course, if you can program it, I mean, I would suggest if you are going that path, please continue to do so, because that is so valuable. If you understand the data and if you understand how to approach data using Python or any other programming language, I mean, that's really powerful. In QGIS, it might be more simpler at first, but if you encounter any issues with it, you have to do a lot of data preparation, and you can, well, program your way out of that as well.
Okay. Thank you very much.
So do a short break?
Yes, I think if this answered Marika's questions, then we do a short break, 15 minutes. So it's 2:45, we start again.
Yeah.